One of the things I've been thinking about is what to follow up uh, Temple of Elemental Evil with. And I want to kind of tease out one possibility that I've been thinking about for a while, but I think it's overlooked a lot. Today on Greyhawk Ragnar. So most people will follow up Temple of Elemental Evil with the Slavers, and this is mostly because that's how it was organized in one of those super modules back in the 80s. And I've never really liked that for a variety of reasons. The PCs seem too powerful after defeating the temple to take on the slavers. It's just it's almost the modules are almost underpowered. What I've been tinkering with for about 12 years now is another way to link certain modules together, and that is to follow up um, Temple of Elemental Evil with Lost Caverns of Tsojcanth, which is a really terrific module. And I think it works a little better, not only in terms of the levels of the characters, but narratively, in terms of the narrative structure. And part of the key to this is something that Lawrence Schick said in the intro to Module S4 in the reprint Dungeons of Dread that came out a while ago, about 10, 15 years ago. And one of the things he said, he's talking about S4, um, S1 through S3 were standalone modules that could easily be dropped into any DM's campaign, but Tsojcanth is firmly based in Gary's world of Greyhawk. Indeed, there's evidence that Gary considered Tsojcanth part of a longer Greyhawk campaign, placing the adventure between T1 and T4, and that's the Temple of Elemental Evil, and WG4, the Forgotten Temple of Tharizdun. That's the one that came out not too long after Tsojcanth. Um, and he says, so Tsojcanth was published in the S series because it got completed out of order, but it was too good to delay. So fine, that works out, in terms of mechanically, in terms of the levels and stuff. But narratively, how do you get your PCs from Temple of Elemental Evil to the Yattle Mountains and right here where the Lost Caverns are? And the obvious narrative glue that holds this idea together is Ayuz, because Ayuz, if you'll remember, is very prominent in Temple of Elemental Evil. He comes along right after Zuckmoy creates it and becomes like a junior partner. And once Zuckmoy is imprisoned in the temple, Ayuz kind of takes over to an extent, and he's trying to get her freed, as but kind of dragging his heels because it's to his advantage to kind of stay in charge. But he's definitely still very much involved. And I went into great detail about this in another video, but there's some evidence that the symbology used in Temple of Elemental Evil is actually Ayuz's symbolism, which or the it's actually the symbolism of the Horn Society, and it could be Ayuz framing them. There's a whole video about it. I'll try to see if I can't get YouTube to put in a link to it. How you do that. Anyway, um, so I use there is the way to get people your PCs from Temple of Elemental Evil down down here up to Sajkanth up there. Because once the PCs come in and destroy the temple for a second time, a lot of Ayuz's servants are going to be scattering to the four winds. A lot of them are going to be trying to get back north. But there's so they can be followed as part of a way to get the PCs physically there. And just a reminder, my new book, Adventures Dark and Deep Light, is now available. I'll put a link below. This is a narrow, thin book. It's got everything you need. It's got the core classes. It's got a stripped down version of the rules. It's got just enough monsters to let you play the game for years and years. You can either stick with this as a light version of 1E, or you can go on to the core rules and all the expansions that come after that. You can use this as a stepping stone. Either way, this is a lot of fun, and it's something that I personally am really proud of, and I would love it if you would consider checking it out. Now, back to the show. But narratively, don't forget that Igwilv the Witch Queen, who is, in Tsojcanth, it's her secret base that the PCs are sent to loot in order to get the magic items to prevent them from being captured by Ket. Right? They're sent by the Margrave Abyssal here into the things because he doesn't want Ket to have the magic items that are in the caverns. But she's Ayuz's mother. And I've pointed out in another video that the timeline of the rise of Ayuz matches the timeline of the fall of Igwilv, his mother, perfectly. Because as soon as she falls, his expansion stops for a long, long time. So I think there's definitely something going on there. And what we see now, remember, Lawrence Schick said that this was published out of order, which I think is a key thing that you could quickly gloss over. But in terms of Tsojcanth, um, the start, the read the player, for the players, your party has been gathered by agents of the Margrave of the March Abyssal. He tells you that there are political considerations that prevent him from searching for Igwil's trove himself. However, it is vital that the treasure not fall into the hands of his enemies. Um, so right there, we have that's the basic mission. But remember, this was published out of order. So what if that got changed? What if that got moved? Because remember, the original wasn't up here at all. It was like down here somewhere. Back when it was still a tournament module. But in the published version, what if the roles got kind of switched around because they were being published out of order? What if instead of the Margrave of Bissell, um, that was supposed to be Prince Thrommel, who in theory the PCs would have freed from the temple. Remember, he's being disguised as a vampire. He's not a real vampire. I don't care what Return to the Temple says. And what if that role was originally supposed to be Prince Thrommel, and he's asking the PCs, whom he has a personal relationship with because they saved him, he asked them to do it. And what if the enemies that they want to keep the treasure from is not Ket, but Ayuz? Because Ayuz was down here with the temple, and he's up here now, and her treasures, his mother's treasures, which he could use to restart his campaign of conquest, are just sitting there. So maybe the Prince of Furiandi and Valuna, Thrommel, because now they'd be a united nation, maybe he's the one who would send them on the mission as originally conceived by Gygax. But because they published out of order, so that didn't work, so we had to make some changes to the names. Obviously, there's no telling whether or not that was the original intention, but it makes sense narratively. And for me, that's the most important key. Getting them physically there is easy. You can just say that's where the adventure is. But having it make narrative sense, I think, is really what matters. And having Ayuz be that connective glue, having his mother be the impetus, his mother's treasures are the impetus for the adventure, because Ayuz wants them, and Furiandi Valuna want Furiandi and Valuna want to stop him because they want to stop his expansions again. And I think that works a lot better than most of the other alternatives I've seen out there. And then that leads into Tharizdun, which is the topic for another um, video, because that has a whole different narrative history and a narrative hook that we have to get into. But for Tsojcanth, this is how I am going to play it from now on. I'm going to have it be, rather than Bissell that sends the PCs into Tsojcanth, it's going to be Furiandi Valuna if they've freed Thrommel. If not, it could be either or, because they want to stop I use. And that's the narrative key that makes it all click. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. This is speculation, pure and simple. Agree, absolutely admit it. But I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it works a lot better than the narrative as published. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will talk to you all later.
Thanks for watching today's video. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Below you'll find links to my Patreon, which helps make these videos possible. You'll also find the web store where you can buy my books, and my blog where you'll find all sorts of free downloads and other articles. Thanks, and have a great day.